Doll customization may not be appropriate for children without the assistance of an adult. These are creative works made by experienced artists using toxic materials and potentially hazardous tools. These include chemical aerosols, knives and razors, cutting tools, skin and eye irritants, such as clays, glues, and acetone, and especially paints and glosses indicated to contain carcinogens. Please read all warning, instructive, and cautionary material thoroughly before using these products. Viewer discretion is advised. Do not allow your children to emulate these projects without adult supervision.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. The weather is colder and it's time for the holiday season, and that means it's time for a holiday doll. Last year, I designed a cute reindeer girl named Tara, and I think it's about time I made her as a doll. Without further ado, let's get artistic and see what comes from my mind today. To bring Tara to life, I used a Claudine wolf body and an Avia trotter head. I chose Avia's head because of the ears and her face shape. The first thing I do is remove Claudine's head and put it away for a future project. Next, it's time to prep the head. To do this, I cut off the hair as close to the scalp as possible. If the hair is good enough quality, save it for a future project, or if it's not, just throw it away. Next, take a scraping tool and pull all the glue away from the head. This head proved especially difficult. The glue was really stuck in there. Once you're done, take pliers or tweezers and pull all the glue and hair bits out of the neck hole. This took a while for me, but I eventually got everything out. Next, take your 100% acetone and some cotton pads and wipe off the factory painted face and scalp. Use a pointed Q-tip to get into the hard spots like the lips and corners of the eyes. Wipe the face once more with acetone, then again with warm soapy water so that no traces of the acetone remains on the face. This will help the sealant stick better. Now it's time to move these cute little ears. Take an X-Acto knife and carefully cut the ears off the head. Now move the ears from the top of the head to the side. To do this, take a small pin and poke through the base of the ear. Then poke the pin through the side of the head where you want the ears to lay. When I draw animal characters, I like to put their animal ears in place of human ears. I think it makes them cuter and more realistic. Once the ears are symmetrical, use a 2-part epoxy glue to glue them in place. I use a couple of other pins to stick the ears close to the head for extra leverage as the glue dries. Leave the head somewhere safe to dry for about a day. After the ears dry, it's time for the antlers. To make the armature for the antlers, take a flexible wire and poke it through the head and feed a little of it out the neck hole. Next, measure how long you want your antlers to be, keeping in mind the wire already inside the head. Then double it. Cut the wire and feed the other end of the wire through the hole next to the first point, then out the neck hole as well. Twist these pieces together and flatten the knot. And then pull the knot into the head. Next, take some more of that wire and push it into a third point and through the neck hole as well. Make a knot and pull it through. Now you have made a triangular base that will help hold its shape as you apply the epoxy. twist these wires together to strengthen the base even more. Now it's time to form the armature shape for the epoxy to hold onto. I have reindeer and caribou antlers for reference on my laptop off screen, as I twist and shape the wire for the best look. I also pay close attention to Delightful's reindeer video to help me. I will link her video in the description box. I would also suggest using a stronger wire than I used. I had to redo my antlers a few times before I managed a good outcome. I simplified my antlers quite a bit, but you can be a little more realistic if you want. Art is all about your aesthetic after all. Once both armatures are done, it's time to start sculpting. Take 2-part epoxy sculpt and mix equal parts A and B together. Then start sculpting your antlers. A lot of people say to use gloves when handling epoxy sculpt, but I found as long as you wash your hands after each use, it's just fine. If you're really concerned or have extremely sensitive skin, use gloves just to be safe. The first pass of epoxy is to flesh out the shape. Epoxy dries slowly, so you still have time to move the wires around for the best shape as you sculpt. Use tools to brush and shape the clay as you go. I'm not too careful to smooth anything out because antlers aren't smooth, so it doesn't really need to be perfect. The second pass of epoxy is to finish up the tips and refine the shapes. Once you have them shaped to your liking, set them aside for a day to cure. Now it's time to color match her head to the rest of her body. This part was especially exciting because I finally got to break out my brand new airbrush gifted to me by my amazing boyfriend. Thanks, honey bunch. I love you. It took quite a bit of trial and error until I finally found the right color to match the body. I placed the head inside of my homemade airbrush station, that's this box you see here, and spray several light layers of paint on her head. I had some other colors mixed up, so I also painted her hands and shoes a dark brown. I sprayed her antlers a base color before going in later with detail. I decided to get fancy with my airbrush and use it to paint the black tips of her ears and the light cream color on her muzzle. Once she is all airbrushed, I use my Myungo Soft pastels to add some dimension to her face. I dust her forehead and temples with a reddish brown and her nose and muzzle with a soft cream color. I also started her eyebrows with brown pastels. This is honestly the most symmetrical I've ever gotten the eyebrows. I think it's because I modified one of my brushes to have smaller bristles, which gave me more control over the pastels. After using a kneaded eraser to clean up smudges, I spray the face with a layer of Mr. Super Clear. After 30 minutes, I can start sketching in the face. I use watercolor pencils to draw in the lip color and her little nose. Next, I take white chalk pencil to block in the eye whites. Because of the eye whites already blocked in, I switched to acrylic paints fairly early. I use a dot tool to map out the iris. I used my color shift paint in dark blue. Next, I use a cream color to add the lash line and the ring around the bottom of the eyes. I really like Avia's face mold. She has really well-defined eye creases that make it easier to draw the eyes in symmetrically. The nice thing about working on a painted face is if you make a mistake, just take the paint you used and cover up that mistake. I work back and forth between the eyes and mouth until I feel like I'm at a stopping point. Then I spray more MSC and wait 30 minutes to work on the next layer. Now it's just a matter of detail. I use black paint on the nose and the ear tips, then some more pastels to blend the black tips of the ears into the brown of the rest. I added some light blue to the iris and added a pupil with a dot tool. I used red flash color shift paint for the lips. The face-up is done with a couple of dots of catchlights. I switch back to the horns and dry brush the cream paint over the antlers, then brush the tips with copper paint. I decide to dust the whole face with copper pearl-X powder to give her a more ethereal look. Use a soft brush to lightly dust the glitter all over the face. The last thing for the face is to bring shine to her eyes, reindeer nose, and lips. Using Liquitex gloss varnish really brings the face to life. I put a single layer on the nose and lips and 2 layers on the eyes for extra sparkle. While the varnish dries, I turn to her hair. Using fluffy brown yarn, I wrap it around a binder over and over again. After I've made enough pieces, I cut one end, and now I have a bunch of pieces of yarn. I tie bundles of them together on a hanger so they're all grouped together. Next, I use a wire pet brush to brush out the yarn, making them nice and fluffy. Then I take my hair straightener on the low setting and straighten out the yarn, making wefts. I cut the wefts off the hanger and glue them to the plastic binder I used earlier. Using craft glue and a plastic palette knife, I glue rows of wefts all around the binder and set them aside to dry. Once they're dry, it's time to glue them to the head. I map out where I want the bangs to be and start gluing. Starting around the hairline, I use fast-drying tacky glue to glue rows of hair together, making sure to cut and style the bangs as I go. Tara wears her hair in low pigtails, so I glue the last wefts backwards, then flip them the right way to make a seamless part down the middle and next to the bangs. Make sure to let the first layer of glue dry before working on the next. This way your glue won't stick to the doll's hair, unless, of course, you're trying to make dreadlocks. To give the bangs their choppy look, I use an eyebrow razor as well as an electric trimmer. I will leave the styling for later. Now it's time to work on the clothes. For the skirt, I use this retro fabric to make a long pleated skirt. I cut it, pin it, iron it, and sew it. I made a waistband with the same fabric and sewed it to the top. I fitted it to the doll's body and sewed the back, leaving space for the booty to fit through. I also sewed a ribbon to the skirt to catch the crotch as well as snaps to close the back. I added a fluffy trim and cuff to an already made jacket and added a snap to close it in the front. I put on her painted boots and made a necklace from a ribbon and a little bell to finish off the outfit. Let's put her head back on her body and style the hair. Be careful not to crack the face or the antlers. I use a brush to split the hair and tie off the hair with clear bands. Next, I cut her hair to be a little shorter and do some last minute touches. The last thing I do is sew on the cute little bows in her hair and take some final photos. I later replaced her bell with a smaller one that I found on an earring. And this is her. I really like how she turned out. She's super cute, and I hope everyone else likes her. Unfortunately, it isn't snowy where I am right now, so I couldn't take any pictures of her outside. But if you want to see more photos of Tara, please follow me on Instagram. Link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions of future videos you want to see, leave them in the comments below. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!